As an American, I used to always think that Canadian English and American English were practically the exact same. But thanks to people like Jordan Peterson and this handsome young tyrant, I have learned that there are quite a bit of differences. In this video, I'm going to show you the biggest differences between American English and Canadian English. Keep in mind though, American English and Canadian English are more similar to one another than they are different. I'm Benji, and on this channel, we learn English through interesting topics. Let's get into the video. Okay, let's look at the differences in vocabulary. Starting off with the letter Z, which in Canada is pronounced Z. If this sounds familiar, it's because the British and Australians say Z as well. Actually, I think pretty much everybody else says Z, but in the United States, it's Z. A soda in the United States is referred to as a pop in Canada, which is a little weird for me, but I know some Americans say pop or soda pop as well. But soda is the most commonly used way to refer to a soda or a pop. In the United States, we call a kilometer, although we don't use it very often. We use miles more often than kilometers. However, for runners, they do use kilometers. For example, run a 5K, run a 10K. But as an American, when somebody says to a non-runner, I'm going to run a 5K, the question they'll ask is, so what does that mean in miles? And it's something like 3.3 or something like that. However, a kilometer in Canada can be referred to as a click, which I never knew that until very recently. They can say, it's 5 clicks down the road. And that means it's 5 kilometers down the road. Now, when we want to add a word that indicates a question to the end of a sentence, Americans most often will say, right? You understood, right? You are saying you want to go to the store, right? But in Canada, they'll say, eh? You understand, eh? Or, you want to go to the store, eh? So, US, right? Canada, eh? Next, we got the word bathroom. Now, I'm sure you already know what a bathroom is. However, in Canada, they'll call it a washroom. Again, I've never heard that, but they'll call a bathroom a washroom. Now, when you go to a restaurant and you want a cloth to wipe your face with, in the United States, we say, can I have a napkin? Whereas in Canada, you'll ask, may I have a serviette? And another word that I've heard Canadians use quite a bit is bloody. This is a way that they add emphasis to what they're saying. For example, I don't understand what's so bloody difficult about it. Whereas in the United States, we would say damn or frickin'. For example, I don't understand what's so damn difficult about it. Or I don't understand what's so frickin' difficult about it. Damn is a little bit more vulgar, whereas frickin' can even be used by children, and it's not that vulgar, but it adds that emphasis. Now spelling. If you didn't know, Canadians spell things the same way as the British. For example, flavor will be F-L-A-V-O-U-R, or favor will be F-A-V-O-U-R, whereas in the United States, we take those U's away. Some other examples are honor, humor, labor, neighbor, and endeavor. Now, there are some tiny phrases that you might want to know depending on whether you're going to Canada or the United States. For example, if you're at a restaurant and you are ready to pay and leave, in Canada, you'll ask for the bill, whereas in the United States, you'll ask for the check. Or you could always just do this hand movement. which shows the waiter that you want to sign a check, you want to pay and get out. Next, in Canada, you write a test, whereas in the United States, you take a test. And after you write the test or take the test, the teacher will mark the test or she will grade the test. In the United States, of course, we say she's going to grade it. She will figure out which questions you got right, wrong, and give you a grade. Whereas in Canada, she is going to mark your test. Now for Canadian pronunciation. When I was a kid, I listened to a ton of Canadian YouTubers. And for most of them, I never knew that they were from Canada. And after years of watching them, when I found out that they're Canadian, it blew my mind. That's how similar the accents are to each other. And before I tell you the one thing that is different, keep in mind, not everybody is going to speak like I'm about to tell you. However, from what I have heard, it's quite prevalent, or it happens very often that they do speak like this. And basically, this little rule is the OU sound, like in house, or about, or out. In Canada, they say these words more like a boot, hoose, oot. For example, a Canadian might say, "Do you want to go oot tonight?" Or, "I think I left my keys at the house." Or, "I don't really know anything about it." Whereas we would say, "I think I left my keys at the house. I don't really know anything about it." A boot, about. A boot, about. But that's really it. Here are some other interesting differences between Canada and the United States. In Canada, you actually are of age to drink when you reach 19 years old, whereas in the United States, you have to be 21. Number 2, in the United States, we use a lot of high fructose corn syrup for sweeteners in our sodas. However, in Canada, they use way more natural sugar, which gives the drink a little bit of a different texture and flavor. Number 3, Canada is quite a bit bigger than the United States. However, has way less people. To be more specific, Canada has about 40 million people, whereas the United States has about 335 million. And lastly, the Canadians use the metric system, so most people will fit in pretty well there. However, here in the United States, we use the imperial system. So instead of meters, we talk in feet. Instead of using Celsius, we will tell you the temperature in Fahrenheit, and etc. So I really hope you liked learning a little bit about the differences between American English and Canadian English. While there are a few differences in spelling, pronunciation, and some words that we use, we are mostly the same. And whether you learn American English or Canadian English, you'll be able to communicate with everyone over here and you'll be absolutely fine. Now, if you would like to get the flashcards to learn the words that you heard in this video, go to the description and become a member today. It was a pleasure seeing you again, friend. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.